Thanks for joining us. Rajan, thanks for joining us. I'll start with Vishal because everybody is talking about AI and ChatGPT. So Vishal, my first question to you is, I mean, there are two different views. Some people believe that AI is going to, the day before yesterday I was watching a report on BBC, and somebody made a statement that AI is capable of triggering an extinction of human race. You have been working very closely in this space. Can you just throw some light on these kind of statements?
The risk that AI has. So I was one of the signers of the original letter that was sent requesting a pause on the super large language models for a few months, just so everybody can catch up to them. The risk here that I see is not so much that these systems are somehow super intelligent and all that. The risk is that people can do dangerous things with them, and they can do dangerous things with them very, very quickly, and at a very large scale. It is an unprecedented scale at which damage can happen. So this is the risk that we see, and I think we need to keep that separate from an assessment of whether these systems are intelligent or not.
Right. But Vishal, it's such an unknown territory that, everybody is trying to figure out different parts of an unknown animal. So I have Rajan also sitting here with me, and they obviously operate one of the largest telecom companies in the world and are at the forefront of 5G revolution in India. And many other countries. Rajan, there is so much discussion about AI and, it started with 5G, then went on to metaverse, and now AI. What is your take as a key stakeholder in this industry?
As Vishal has rightly pointed out, it is early days, but we have to be very watchful. We have seen the disruption technology brings around the world, around the globe. Social media itself, if you will see, has done a lot of stuff that probably was not even thought about. So we'll have to have some, red lines drawn when the AI is spoken about. And the experts are actually engaged now with the stakeholders, with the governments of the day. If you see, if you must have read the last week, EU and all the AI, supposedly people who are now putting the benchmark on AI, are in discussion. What are the red lines for this AI to be coming? It has its own disruption that will happen. Will it be something which is under control, as all the regulations do? And we see in every technology, regulation is a must. Anything which is unregulated will bring huge disruption, negatively as well, positively as well. India has its own space. Technology, India is actually now leapfrogging. So we should not shy away. We should adopt, but we should be watchful.
Vishal, I have a follow-up question for you. One is the desire to regulate AI and its application. But I think the fundamental question is, can it be regulated? What is your take?
Oh, absolutely. It can be regulated. We have regulated nuclear technology before. We regulate dangerous chemicals. We have regulated very dangerous technologies very successfully. And same thing, it's a tool that we have built. It is easy and it is possible to regulate this, and we must. Many countries are now working on this. Our government in India is working on it. And the regulation is absolutely necessary. Just like we regulate, as I'm speaking to you, I'm sitting in a 45-story tall building. This building is not going to fall down, or the builders don't say there is a 30% chance that this building could just crumble. It doesn't work like that. We need to be able to build responsible technologies, trustworthy technologies out of these basic tools. And the fundamental issue that I see is an issue of education. Right now, there are far too few people who understand these technologies. If I give you some statistics on that, my wife, Vandana, is on the board of Code.org, which is a non-profit that brings coding, computer science to people, to kids and all that. And she always says that there is, in the dark ages, when the dark ages were going to the middle ages, about 6% of the world was able to read and write. The literacy rates were 6%. Today, the number of people who can program is about 1%, if you are generous. And the number of people who can build you an AI application is probably less than 2 million. 2 million out of 8 billion people in the world. And the number of people who could explain to you, technically how ChatGPT works is probably 25, 30,000. That's it. So this number needs to be 100x, 1000x higher. And I think that's, for India, for us, that is the huge opportunity, is to be able to not just create users of this technology, but builders of this technology, who are able to, and that removes the fear of it, that removes the mystery around it. The more that we understand it, the more we are able to do something with it, and we shed the fear of it.
Right. So Vishal, this whole fear and, sort of statements that we keep reading that AI will take jobs and do those kind of stuff, you believe that that's highly misplaced?
It is. Well, if people sit still and don't learn and don't understand how these technologies can improve the work that they do, then for sure it will take those jobs. But if people start to use these technologies to improve their productivity and do new things with it and do things better with it, then this will be a great productivity enhancer, a great amplifier of our abilities. So it is just it is up to us, Eric Clapton had this beautiful song, "It's in the way that you use it." And it is how we use these technologies that is going to make a big difference.
Right. Rajan, you are obviously, technology is very critical for your business as well. And we have seen, obviously the early indications are that 5G is going to revolutionize a lot of things. But then there is metaverse and obviously AI. But I will restrict my question to currently 5G and going forward, metaverse maybe. Its impact on retail, the way we use services, the way we consume data, the way we consume entertainment. How do you see that changing going forward?
One point I want to pick up what Vishal said. Every technology will bring disruption. Some jobs will be lost. We should be cognizant of that and we should be ready for that. But if you really see the landscape over, let's say, 20 years, there are so many other jobs that the technology creates. So we have to adopt that. There are more jobs to be created with any new technology that comes in than the jobs lost. Having said that, on 5G, I think India is rolling out, probably this is the largest rollout the world would have ever seen. And I think for a country like India, where the connectivity is most important, and more so in the hinterlands. And that's what we are wanting to do that now. The services, as the consumption story of India really rises. And India being in I have to say, a sweet spot of the way economic velocity that India is shaping up with, is important that we connect the urban and the rural digital divide that has been there for a while. All these services that we are seeing today, be it e-commerce, be it OTTs, be it social media. Honestly, when I travel around India, it amazes me the kind of the younger generation that is taking to all these services, which has never heard about it. It used to be an urban phenomena, so to speak. Today, you go to the tier 3, tier 4 rural areas. It's so all-pervasive. Not only that is helping all the services to connect with all the manufacturing side on one side, it's also the financial services. People are unbanked in a country like India, and banks will never be able to reach out. Digital mobiles, the UPI system, the payment bank systems, we are connecting the whole ecosystem. So 5G will play its own way that we connect the country on one side. On the other side is the industrial needs of the 5G. Huge automation, real-time work. Today, when you go to the new factories that are being set up, they are being set up with all the, with the backdrop of the technology. Where lesser people are involved, more machine work is involved, which needs real-time connectivity. And that's what 5G will provide.
Right. Right. Vishal, in this context, because a lot of these, the industries which are dependent on consumer behavior, they also have to go through a lot of data crunching, a lot of analysis, and obviously, I mean, some sort of basic coding and all. To what extent, going forward, AI will replace some of these mundane tasks?
The state of it today is that, so if you look at GPT-4 or even GPT 3.5 or the models from Google, these models do a surprisingly good job of software development. But it is being used so far to enhance the productivity of an individual software developer. And so what you need, even though it does a very good job, it often makes mistakes. And so you need someone supervising what it is doing. So if you imagine a situation where you have a software developer plus this AI tool using their work versus a couple of software developers or a team of software developers, you start to see significant productivity improvement. So what you will see, and what you're already starting to see is, for example, there is a product from Microsoft called Copilot, and there are several other similar products out there that are significantly enhancing the productivity of a software programmer today. Soon you will see this applying to teams of software programmers. And so, as Mr. Mittal was saying, similar to how we use other kinds of tools, it behooves us to start to use this technology to make our teams much more productive, able to do better programming. Because, this AI tool is not only helping you write code, it actually has access to all the code that has ever been written, that it can bring to bear on whatever it is that you are trying to do. So that's a very powerful ability. So yeah, I do see that impacting software development in a very significant way. And the teams, the people, the organizations that embrace that are going to benefit from it. The ones that don't are clearly going to see a significant disruption from it.
Right. So Vishal, can you just elaborate a bit on this? I mean, obviously tech companies are going to be at the forefront in terms of the usage and application of AI. But apart from that, eventually, which are the sectors and industries where you see maximum impact, or I would say maximum usage of AI?
Within companies, so companies that do a lot more knowledge-oriented work, a lot more informational work, whether it is services companies, software development companies, companies that work on knowledge process outsourcing, BPO, or just companies that work with a lot of informational tasks, text and things like this, as opposed to, for example, companies that manufacture things and so on. So one level of applications that we see is in helping improve the operations of every company, whether it is financial operations, HR, supply chain operations and things of this nature. So the operational tasks, the B tasks, as Engelbart would have said, but also in the companies in the services world, it impacts the very products themselves. So the nature of the work done by the core employees also gets impacted by this. So there you will see more impact from this. Already we see, for example, in analysis tasks, business analysts, the work that is done to analyze opportunities, to do product research, things of this nature. These are already being AI-based applications. This language model-based applications are already being applied to that. Some other areas that are very interesting are, for example, in pharmaceutical world, understanding chemical compositions, understanding molecules, or doing genomic data analysis, sequencing prediction. These are also, in a sense, informational tasks. And these are also, I serve on the board of GSK, and we are doing a lot of work in this regard, where genomic data can be analyzed using large language models that are specifically trained on understanding these sequences, or discovery of new compounds, new molecules that is aided by this. So any company whose primary work is informational in nature can stand to dramatically benefit from it, or be disrupted by it, depending on what attitude they take to this technology. And every other company in their operations already can start to apply this.
Right. While we have discussed a lot about future, let's talk about the present. Rajan, you must have seen the recent GDP data, and I mean, obviously, there was a report also by a famous firm just a couple of days back. All of them are hoping, and even the data indicates that India is in a good place in terms of its growth trajectory. Looking at the macro indicators, what is your outlook?
I saw the last data, the last quarter. Sure enough, India is growing, as I see around the world. As I said before as well, that India is at a sweet spot, growing 6% to 7%. I mean, that's kind of the data line that we are seeing. If we have to grow for a faster pace, which we should be growing with the kind of population that we have, India needs to grow at 8 to 10% in the coming few years. And for that, the facilitation of the government side, I can tell you from a business point of view, is extremely important, the way government is coming around to helping the sectors that are defining how the growth will happen. We are seeing manufacturing, which has been a laggard for many, many years. This government has taken upon themselves to bring manufacturing to the forefront. At 17% of the GDP on a manufacturing moving to 25% is a needle which has to move. But the work has already started. The entire PLI scheme that we see, entire Atmanirbhar we are seeing, this will propel the growth on manufacturing. Services is at 58 to 60%, depending how we see the data, is also growing, but manufacturing needs to keep that pace. India will grow. There is no doubt about that, and I can tell you we've seen the numbers which the reports have alluded to it. Not only in terms of the top line, but also on the consumption side, because both have to play in tandem. Last 3 years have been challenging years for the entire globe, including India. It's a black swan event, but I think India has emerged very strongly out of that. If you see now the data of the last 2 years and the last few quarters is clearly showing that India is on a growth path, which means really the world is looking at India in a very different way. India has become a trusted partner. India has become a trusted source, and we are seeing global changes that are taking shape. Geopolitics has its own way to play, and I think it is very important for India to take that, I would say, pole position today that we have been actually put through into that. The decisive government that we have today in place, the decisive leadership that we have in place, and the policies that we have in place, I am in no doubt that the growth story, the growth trajectory of India will remain very robust.
Vishal, would you like to add? What is your outlook?
It is one of the shining spots right now in the world. You look around, there is all this doom and gloom everywhere, except in India. And so, in a sense, there is such a positive feeling, spirit, and incredible work that is happening from across the board in all sectors. The spirit of entrepreneurship and a can-do attitude. It is incredibly impressive and infectious. So I think in a way, when I look at the future, I see that in a world that is going to be transformed by AI, by these technologies, India can play such a fundamental role, not only for India itself, but for the entire world. And I think we need to unleash our innovative spirit and solve the big problems that are out there. It is right now our canvas, ours to build on.
Right. Very quickly, Vishal, last question to you. Like Rajan also mentioned, we need to eventually get to growth rate of maybe 8 to 10%, looking at the kind of population and looking at the kind of working population that we have. Now, how we can effectively leverage, let's say, technologies like AI, generate enough jobs, educate people about it, and again sort of emerge as a leader the way we did back in the day in software industry.
By training, by education, having a tremendous focus on that, we have to always look at the number of people who can use the technology, the number of people who can build with this technology, the number of people who can actually build the next generations of ChatGPT and GPT-4 and what have you. The more that we can enable these numbers, and we have massive numbers, we are a young country. So I see that the enablement of the skills and the training as one of the fundamental needs and opportunities. And then the creation of the jobs and all of this will follow from there. the world is looking for technology like this. One thing that I feel particularly good about is that the number of global products that are coming out of India has increased significantly in the last few years. It used to be that we provided services to others and so forth, but now we are building innovative products which are global in nature, and I think this needs to be really multiplied and encouraged even more. And so the way it works is, Steve Jobs always said you connect the dots looking backwards. The employment, the prosperity are all consequences of the fact that you have such a workforce that is able to innovate like that. And then, the growth rates and all of these things follow from there. But you have to put the horse in front of the cart, and that is the skilled people who are skilled in next generations of capabilities.
Right. Mr. Mittal, last question to you. Like you mentioned, eventually we need to get to 8 to 10% growth. It's a desirable situation to have, but not very easy to achieve. And considering that we'll be getting into the general elections next year, so, I mean, what are those 2-3 steps that we immediately need to sort of take in terms of reforms which can kickstart and sustain the investment cycle and the jobs market?
I think from global headwinds as we see, there are some challenges which will remain on the table till the time the entire geopolitics is settled, which will take its own time, because we are seeing Europe is challenged, UK is challenged, US is growing, the Chinese have their own play. India is growing at a speed that is little probably slower, but we are moving in that direction. And I don't think so elections will have any impact, at least I see from the industry point of view. This government I've seen works till the last day, and there is no reason for them not to. And the reforms, I can tell you, have been from all sectors. This government is very friendly. We see the FDI policies, which are very friendly. I don't think so there's any other country that today we'll see which has the growth that we are seeing, the consumption of the society that we will find of the generation that we have on the young generation that India has. So we have this story quite built up there. The manufacturing piece has to kick in. I think that's important, and we are already on that direction. So clearly, I don't think so that as we speak of this growth in the coming times, India is very much ready from reform side, from policy side, from decision-making side. Entrepreneurs are investing. Some private capex investment is a little slow, but I think we are seeing it's inching as we see the last report. Government has invested a lot. The private sector will also now start kicking in. I think we're all set there for a growth which should be far exceeding in the coming years.
Absolutely. Let's hope for the best. Mr. Mittal, thank you so much for joining us. And Vishal, thank you so much for joining us from there. Thank you.
Thank you.